A magical season for the Houston Cougars ended last night in San Antonio. We'll discuss the national championship game and talk to one of our reporters who was there. I'm Celeste Diaz-Sherman.
And I'm Ernie Manous. Also this hour, HISD Superintendent Mike Miles is here to talk about the past 2 years and what's ahead for the largest school district in Texas.
I'm Frank Billingsley. Your questions are a big part of Hello Houston. You can call us at 713-440-8870. We're also live on YouTube every day. Check us out through a link at houstonpublicmedia.org.
We have a great show for you today. We're just minutes away from good conversation on a Tuesday.
First up, the news from NPR and News 88.7.
Hello Houston is made possible in part by founding sponsors John Bradshaw and Kathy Sanders, and by gifts from listeners like you.
Live from NPR News, I'm Lakshmi Singh. Financial markets are rebounding after 3 days of steep losses. NPR's Scott Horsley reports President Trump is touting a new round of negotiations with multiple trading partners.
Steep new tariffs on many imported goods are set to take effect tomorrow. But investors are crossing their fingers that the economic fallout from the trade war might be tempered through negotiations. President Trump has said many U.S. trading partners are eager to make a deal, although Trump is non-committal on what he's willing to offer in return. Even before Trump's big tariff announcement last week, many small business owners were feeling less bullish about the economic outlook. The Small Business Optimism Index, compiled by a National Federation of Business Owners, fell last month and is now just below its long-run average. Scott Horsley, NPR News, Washington.
President Trump spoke with the acting president of South Korea today about tariffs and said on social media that, quote, things are looking good. He said South Korea was sending a team to the U.S. to try to negotiate a deal. It's the third leader that Trump has announced he has spoken with since his tariff announcement last week raised global economic worries. Iran disputes its upcoming talks with the Trump administration will be direct. Dori Bouskarin has a reaction from Tehran after President Trump announced weekend plans to discuss Iran's nuclear program.
In a press conference, Iran's government spokesperson, Fatemeh Mohajerani, insisted that talks with the U.S. government will be indirect, held through a mediator and in Oman. As we have said before, we fundamentally believe in negotiations, Mohajerani said. If the language that's used is respectful, we will negotiate. On Monday, Trump warned that Iran would be in great danger if the country does not abandon its nuclear weapons program. Iran ramped up its efforts to enrich weapons-grade uranium after Trump unilaterally withdrew the U.S. from a landmark nuclear accord back in 2018. For NPR News, I'm Dori Bouskarin.
Health and Human Services Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. says he plans to tell the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention to stop recommending fluoride in drinking water. NPR's Maria Godoy reports on Kennedy's remarks to the Associated Press during a visit to Utah yesterday.
This year, Utah banned adding fluoride to public water systems. Kennedy says he's assembling a task force to study and make a new recommendation on fluoride. Meanwhile, the Environmental Protection Agency announced it would start a review of the scientific information on, quote, potential health risks of fluoride in drinking water. Fluoride is commonly added to drinking water to prevent tooth decay. It's considered a great public health success. Research has found fluoride is not harmful at the levels recommended in the U.S. drinking water supply, but data does show the possibility of harms to children's neurodevelopment when the fluoride levels are more than twice what's recommended.
Maria Godoy reporting. It's NPR.
Live from News 88.7 in Houston, I'm Matt Thomas. After the removal of cyclist infrastructure in the Heights and Midtown neighborhoods, safety advocates are worried 11th Street in the Heights could be next. Mayor John Whitmire says local businesses don't like the project that was installed in 2023. News 88.7's Dominic Anthony Walsh heard mixed reaction from businesses.
The project reduced the 4 lanes of 11th Street to 3, including a center left turn lane, and it added 2 protected bike paths. Gus Capriva with the Redbud Arts Center and Bill Meeks, manager of Republic Boot Company, use strong adjectives to describe the project.
Unsafe, underused, and damn ugly. traffic is just horrendous.
Gilbert Perez owns 2 design shops, and Sarah Saber runs 3 Dog Bakery. They say slower traffic means more walkers.
My foot traffic has increased.
It feels safer as a pedestrian for sure.
Ashley Wilson with Loro Smokehouse is neutral about the project, but not about the prospect of more road work.
More construction would be annoying.
Whitmire says the review is ongoing. I'm Dominic Anthony Walsh, News 88.7.
Well, unfortunately, it's another maybe next year situation for the men's Cougar basketball team. They came up just short in their bid for a national championship last night. Florida held on by 2 points in the final few seconds to pull out a victory. Fans gathered at a downtown watch party. They were heartbroken, but still supportive.
I'm proud of the team for everything that they've done. I'm proud of Coach Sampson.
This is still an honor to play, and I'm so proud of our team.
Win or lose, man, I always want to be a proud Cougar no matter what.
I think that's what's going to hurt the most is they've worked so hard outside of what they're required to do just to make it this far, and to come up short by 2 points is really sad.
But some good news as far as the weather goes. Sunny with a high of 75 this afternoon and a north wind around 5 miles an hour, and it looks like we're in for a beautiful week. I'm Matt Thomas, News 88.7.
Support for NPR comes from NPR stations. Other contributors include Bank of America. From local shops to global enterprises, Bank of America is committed to helping businesses of all sizes make every move matter. Learn more at bankofamerica.com/banking for business.
Live from the University of Houston, it's Hello Houston, an open forum on today's biggest stories affecting Houston and beyond. Call now, 713-440-8870, or let us know your thoughts on today's topics by emailing us at talk@hellohouston.org. Now here's your host for Hello Houston, Ernie Manous, Celeste Diaz-Sherman, and Frank Billingsley.
And hello, Houston.
Hello, Houston. Hello, Celeste.
Buenos dias.
Buenos dias.
We
¿Cómo
are
está?
back again, and if you want to know what we look like, because who doesn't, you can always watch the show over on YouTube. Easiest way to get to us is go to our HoustonPublicMedia.org page, and you can click the link there, or on YouTube.com/HoustonPublicMedia. And the reason I bring that up is because, Celeste, even though last night may have been sad for many in our area, you are still in Cougar Red a bit.
That's right. You know, I last night is a perfect testament as to why people love sports. It brings people together. It was disappointing, but you know what? People were out and still celebrating. And I'm a Cougs fan, and I am going to continue to support our team, win or lose.
I've often said, if you don't believe in miracles, watch college sports. It just wasn't our miracle night.
Well, we've got a lot.
It was their miracle night.
We've got a lot to talk about.
How about a miracle weather?
I know. I want to get to the weather, but I also want to mention that Mike Miles, HISD Superintendent, is here with us, and he's going to be on in just a moment. But the weather, very nice.
Crisp, clear, just another beautiful morning. It's going to be another nice day. It'll be a little warmer, and by tomorrow we'll make it to about 80 degrees and warmer as we head into the weekend. But I still don't have any rain in the forecast, just tears.
Just tears. That was the rain we got.
Tears.
Yeah, Celeste.
I'm sorry. It was so heartbreaking.
I
mean, that first half, I thought, well, this is ours. We were ahead by, 10, 12 points. Yeah. But you know what? This is just my theory, and I'm not a basketball player. Okay. I think
Frank.
I think you get exhausted. I think at the end of the day, it's the stamina of the team, because you start to foul more. You know, there were more fouls.
Got a little chippy.
There are more misses. There are more 3-point misses. They've been playing basketball like crazy. March Madness.
Played.
Been crazy for a month. Yeah. And so you get to this point of the last game, and it's almost like, no wonder that Cryer fumbled at the very end.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just mentally and physically, it is an exhausting game, more so than almost any other sport.
Oh, yeah.
You forget it's college. They're not professionals. I mean, yes, they're the best of the best.
They're the most elite.
But it's still...
Cooper Flagg got a full scholarship when he was in the 8th grade.
But it's still not,
young.
They're young. The pressure on them, they know that everyone's watching. How our team feels knowing all UH and all Cougs far and wide are watching, hoping. that pressure's got to get to you.
Oh, yeah, and very
Sure.
much on a national stage. And
Yes.
I've got to say, I've been told this whole 2 hours, I'm only allowed to say I'm a parent so many times. But as
here's
a
one.
parent,
All right,
there's-
one down.
as a parent, you feel for those parents in the stands, watching their kids put their absolute heart and soul out there, and you know that they are just devastated. But we are so proud of them.
Well, so and we are. I mean, it's hard when it's a 2-point loss.
Yeah.
Because if it had been a 10-point loss, you're like, well, we didn't really have it. We were up against a much better team. But as Mark Norris said yesterday, they're taller, than us, and their defense was terrific. Our defense was terrific, and it comes down to that 16 seconds, and you should have tried for that 3
I know,
points.
and they just couldn't get it there. But you know what? Again, we are just so proud of them. And, the Cougs fans, they showed up, they showed out. And last night, they stood by them through the thick and thin. And there was a huge watch party at the Avenida Center watch party. And, we're going to hear how they were coping with their own loss.
I'm proud of the team for everything that they've done. I'm proud of Coach Sampson.
This is still an honor to play, and I'm so proud of our team.
Win or lose, man, I always want to be a proud Cougar no matter what.
I think that's what's going to hurt the most is they've worked so hard outside of what they're required to do just to make it this far, and to come up short by 2 points is really sad.
Yep, that's my point. 2 points is really sad.
Yeah, and it was just so bittersweet. But, again, it's one of those things where you see these young men go out there and they have everybody behind them. And, their leader, Coach Kelvin Sampson, expressed his disappointment after the game.
I told our guys after the game to be disappointed you lost, but do not be disappointed in your effort.
True.
Defending Florida is difficult. They got a really, really good team. Coach Golden runs great schemes over there, but we guarded them. We held that team to 65 points. I thought if we held Duke to under 70, we'd have a good chance to win. And I felt like if we held Florida under 70, we'd have a good chance to win. Saturday, we found a way to win. Tonight, maybe not so much. But two great teams, two tough teams. We lost by 2 points. They made one more play than we did tonight.
Oh, man. I mean, just you can hear the disappointment. It just is heartbreaking. But now we have Mark Norris with Houston Public Media, who's been covering all of the action from San Antonio. Mark, you there?
Good morning. How are you guys? Yes.
Thanks.
How are you?
We're doing well.
So yesterday I asked how the feeling was in the stadium on Saturday night. How was the feeling last night in those last moments?
So, UH was up most of the game.
Yeah.
Yep.
The Cougars traveled very well. It was very loud. And then in the final minutes, as it started kind of going back and forth, the Florida fans who were there started making a lot of noise. And you could sense UH people getting nervous, like, okay, we're going to be able to hold on. And then when the game went final and they didn't even get off a last-second shot, I was standing where the student section was for UH. And it was interesting seeing how people reacted. Some of them immediately just turned around and started walking out of the arena. And then there are others who stayed there. They were crying. They were consoling each other. It was a range of emotions in the student section, and that doesn't even get to what the locker room was a half hour later.
Yeah.
Your voice sounds a little hoarse there, Mark. Were you screaming your heart out there last night?
No, that's just up till 3 a.m. filing and getting everything done.
There you go.
Well,
I was a good journalist and stayed neutral.
As the coach said, Florida was a really, really good team. So such a close game really does speak volumes about just how good the Cougs are.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing because there's a heartbreak of being so close, and they led the entire game. Florida only led for 64 seconds out of 40 minutes.
Yeah.
So they had it in their hand. But you also, it's okay to take a look at the big picture, and that's what Kelvin Sampson was saying, which is this is a good team, and it takes a lot to get to a national title game.
Oh, my God, yeah.
Did you get a chance to talk to any of the players or the coach or the fans? Who all did you have a chance to talk with, Mark?
Yes. So after the game, I'm not a sports writer full time, but, I've covered enough to say I have never been in a locker room like that after a major sporting event. They usually open up the locker room within 10, 15 minutes of the game ending. They kept the locker room closed for a half hour. Wow. And we found out later it was because Kelvin Sampson wanted to allow the players a chance to process their emotions and their feelings. But even when they opened the door, there were still multiple players crying. There were staffers hugging and consoling each other.
That's fair. I understand.
Incredibly emotional scene in there, and it's understandable because they came really close.
Yeah. It's almost more painful to be close than to be
have a
hammered,
complete blowout. Yeah.
But it's a chance to really celebrate how good you are, or you wouldn't have been that close. You wouldn't have been in that game. You wouldn't have been in the Final Four. We really have an amazingly strong team, and instead of feeling sad today, we should all be celebrating just how wonderful they did and how proud we are of each and every one of them.
I think it turns. I think hopefully they will turn by today. I'm certainly they'll forever remember the loss, but hopefully they'll forever remember the victories. And I mean, they beat Duke for gosh sakes, and then they were 2 points away from tying, if not winning this game. So they did pretty good.
Thanks, Mark, for joining us.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark.
That was Mark Norris with Houston Public Media. You can check out all of our coverage from San Antonio at our website, houstonpublicmedia.org.
Another story we've been talking about is the special election for Texas 18th Congressional District. Well, it's finally been called for November 4th. That'll make it nearly 8 months after the death of U.S. Rep. Sylvester Turner, when he left that seat for Houston vacant. Texas Governor Abbott, a Republican, was criticized by many in the Houston area for not putting the election on May 3rd ballot. But he said the reason why was he wanted to give our election team to be able to get it on the ballot and have it proper. We'll be talking a lot more about that and as we move forward.
That's right. And just a reminder, we will have both Amanda Edwards and as well Harris County Attorney Christian Menefee joining us later on this week right here on Hello Houston.
But we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, Celeste, what do we got?
That's right. Superintendent Mike Miles will be joining Ernie, Frank, and I to chit-chat about his time being the superintendent, as well as the reason he was in Austin last week. That's next on Hello Houston.
Hi, I'm Craig Cohen, the host of Houston Matters. Join me weekday mornings at 9 or at your leisure on your podcast feed for your daily guide to the people, places, issues, and ideas that define Greater Houston. From politics to the economy, energy to the environment, healthcare to education to transportation and beyond. If it matters to Houston, it matters to us. Check us out wherever you get your podcasts or live on the air weekdays at 9 a.m. right here on News 88.7.
We're talking about trillions of dollars with a T. To make it feel personal, let's just say you had a portfolio and you were a retiree, and 20% of your wealth went poof overnight. And it went poof overnight because of a man-made crisis.
I'm Michael Barbaro. That's Today on the Daily from the New York Times.
You can hear it tonight at 7 on News 88.7.
On the next Fresh Air, some answers to the question many Democrats and Republicans are still asking: how Trump beat Biden, Harris, and the odds in the wildest campaign in history. That's the subtitle of the new book Uncharted by our next guest, Chris Whipple, author of a previous book about White House chiefs of staff. We'll talk about Trump's chief. Join us.
You can hear Fresh Air coming up tonight at 8 p.m.
Support comes from Collaborative for Children's Collab Kid U this Saturday at Rice University. There, young children can engage in STEAM activities, explore coding, climate solutions, and more. Tickets at collabforchildren.org.
Support for Houston Public Media comes from listeners like you and from Houston Community College with AI and robotics training for a real-world education in technology. Sign-up information and more at hccs.edu.
And now back to Hello Houston. To comment on any of today's topics, call 713-440-8870 or email us at talk@hellohouston.org. Now back to Ernie Manous, Celeste Diaz-Sherman, and Frank Billingsley.
This is Hello Houston, and I'm Celeste Diaz-Sherman here with Ernie and Frank.
Hello, Celeste. Hello, Ernie.
Hello, Frank. So, state-appointed Superintendent Mike Miles has been leading the Houston Independent School District since June 5th of 2023. He was in Austin last week testifying in support of Senate Bill 1962, which would give the state more power to modify its standards and increase the rigor of the rating system across Texas public schools. Any parent who's in the process of looking into public school or has gone through it understands the importance of a school's ranking within the district. Here to discuss SB 1962 and give us an update on the state of HISD is Superintendent Mike Miles. Welcome to Hello Houston, and thank you for joining us.
Hello, sir.
Yeah, hello, everybody.
We're glad to
Happy
see
to be
you.
here.
Thank you. Thank you. So I just have a quick question. Okay, so schools are ranked. Is it a letter grade or a number grade?
That's right. It's a letter grade, A through F, and of course D and F rated schools are struggling. Yes,
sure.
failing.
Okay.
And we want to welcome your questions and comments for Superintendent Miles, and you can give us a call at 713-440-8870, and we'd love to hear from you, our listeners and watchers and viewers. And so, Superintendent Miles, you just touched on it a little bit, but let's start with how the schools in the state are currently being ranked right now, and then how what you're advocating would change that.
So we're being rated on an A through F system. And for HISD, for example, when I started 2 years ago, we had 121 D and F rated campuses, 93 A and B rated campuses, and there's 273 schools.
How do you get the rating?
So the rating is from the Texas Education Agency, and mostly based on the STAR exam, on graduation rate, achievement gap, and what we call college career military readiness indicators.
Okay, so how well the students are doing.
So basically how well the students are doing on core subjects. Reading,
and are they going forward?
Writing, math, yes, and whether they're making progress. So you can get you get points for progress, growth, and for basic achievement, proficiency.
Do you feel that the current system that we have truly reflects how the schools are doing?
So yes is the answer, but there's footnotes to that. So no one test can capture how well your district is doing. Mm-hmm. It gives a good indication, though, on the whole, can your students read at grade level? Can your students do math at grade level? Are your students getting prepared for college and careers? So generally speaking, it's a good test for a snapshot. And it's only one test, so people need to keep that in mind.
And what's the current graduation rate for HISD?
Yeah, so our graduation rate is in the 80s, high 80s.
That's
right
very
now.
good. I remember when it was 50%.
And we're moving that.
That's I'm surprised it's in the 80% range. Yeah. Congratulations. I think that's terrific.
So, Superintendent Miles, you touched on the STAR test, and next week HISD will start testing the STAR. And something that you brought up in Austin was changing that to shortening the exam. Can you talk to us about what that would look like if it was a shorter exam? Would it still be the STAR? And why you think the STAR exam needs to be changed?
So I was testifying in support of Senate Bill 1962 because I think we need to have an accountability system. We need to maintain a rigorous accountability system, and most of that bill solidifies or reinforces the accountability system. As far as the new tests go, I'm okay with the current STAR exam and the current way we are giving letter grades to districts, but the new STAR or the new test or the proposed one, gives 3 separate looks at the school district. So beginning of the year, middle of the year, and end of year. And so instead of one big exam at the end of the year, the STAR, and we're about to start that.
That's right. Yeah.
In just a couple of days for this set of exams. There will be beginning of the year and middle of the year exams that are similar to STAR, but much truncated, of course.
And what about blocking the ratings and showing? Are these going to be transparent ratings?
So that's one of the reasons why I support Senate Bill 1962, because I believe that parents should have an idea and get data on whether the school system is doing well or not. And
do they currently not?
Well, if you block the ratings,
and they're currently blocked.
They're currently blocked. School districts can release them, like we have. Dallas has. Several districts have released the scores, the letter grades, but they're currently blocked. You know that the court just allowed TEA to release the 2023 ratings. We suspect they'll be able to release the 24 ratings also. So parents need to know that. And again, if we all keep it in perspective, it is one exam, but it does tell you 60% of your kids are reading at grade level or not, or 20%.
Now, the reason the school districts wanted to essentially block or not release their test scores was because they felt that they were not being measured properly. Do you have any response to that as to why would school districts essentially want to not release their ranking?
Look, I think the STAR test is reliable and it's valid. Mm-hmm. There's been research that it's technical, but it is. And so, again, it's one test, but that's a valid test, and they should release it. Good, bad, or indifferent, parents need to know, hey, our students are doing well. This is how my third grader is doing. This is how the school is doing on fourth grade math, whatever, and they need to know that.
Has there ever been any thought to, because I know when I was in school, you could take the SAT 2 or 3 or 4 times. ACT you could take 2 or 3 or 4 times. In graduate classes and tests you can take over and over. If there are students who don't do well on that STAR test, has there ever been any consideration of letting them retake it?
Not the regular subjects, no. But remember, they take it every year, number one. But number two, we educators take other assessments to assess our progress. So, for example, in HISD, we take what's called the NWEA MAP assessments. That's the beginning of the year tests, middle of the year, and end of year. So we don't just rely on STAR. There are other assessments that we take, the Circle exam for pre-K. We take DIBELS, which measures fluency and phonemic awareness for literacy for the younger kids mostly. So there's other ways. We don't just rely on the STAR exam.
What about teacher rankings? Because the teacher assessments have also been introduced. Will that be part of this to get a ranking?
So no, the state will not rank teachers. That's up to the district on how they evaluate teachers.
But that won't be part of the school ranking?
No, that's not part of the A through F rating.
Okay.
Right. And you're listening to Hello Houston. Frank, Ernie, and myself, Celeste, are joined by HISD Superintendent Mike Miles. You can join the conversation at 713-440-8870. And Roger from the Galleria is on the line. Hi, Roger. How are you?
Hi, good morning. Well, actually, I'm closer to River Oaks, but that kind of sounds nerdy.
Okay. We'll take River Oaks. What's your question?
Well, thanks for inviting me to join in first. Whenever I hear the subject of education, there's a lot of blame that goes around for all the problems we have. It's the teachers, it's the system, it's the politicians, et cetera, et cetera. But I don't hear a lot about what responsibilities parents have for the education of their children.
Okay, thanks, Roger. That's a good point. What do you think about that, Mr. Miles? I mean, how do you encourage parents to get involved in all of this?
I think it's great if parents are involved. I know, Celeste, you have kids.
I
and
do,
you
She's
are
crazy involved.
I have so many questions. I'm like, Frank.
and it would be great for parents to be engaged like you are engaged. Not all parents have the wherewithal or the time to be engaged in the same way. And so
you can't police parents.
Well, I hope parents would do at least 2 things. Get their kid to school on time every day.
Fair.
That's number 1.
Fair.
And number 2, when a child comes home, ask them about an open-ended question, not, did you have a good day or not, not a yes or no answer, but ask them seriously about how their day went and what they learned and their experience. Other than that, I think the school system itself is the one that needs to really not blame parents, but say, look, we have effective teachers who can teach reading and math and the other subjects, and we're good at our job, and we're going to do that every day for our kids.
I just have a quick question, because you mentioned about something that you're advocating would essentially break up the STAR test. And so would it be this huge monumental exam at the end of the year for students? And I guess my question would be, I think a lot of parents' concern around that is that mentality of teaching to test. Mm-hmm. And I think parents want to see more of a holistic approach. How would you be able to provide a more holistic approach that parents want to see in their kids' curriculum if you are breaking up a huge test at the end of the year and adding 2 more, so you'd have 3 in the whole year?
So let's start with the philosophy of the concept. I believe that you should test kids or only assess kids on what you taught them. Now, some people want to say that's teaching to the test. That's a misnomer in our profession. Of course, you should only test things that you have taught.
Right.
So, and I do believe we can assess and we should assess your reading ability and your math ability. Mm-hmm. So if that requires some sort of test, and maybe you don't like the STAR exam, fine, then tell me which one you like. NWA, NAEP, the National Report Card. So we need an assessment of some sort. I've already said the STAR is reliable and valid. If you want to break it up and make it 3 reliable and valid tests, that's fine. But in some way, parents need to know, schools need to know, educators need to know, can a kid read at grade level?
Yeah.
And that has to be a valid assessment. Now, beyond the test, there's all kinds of other things we do for kids. And we should. We should do electives. We should do sports. We should do art of thinking, which is what HISD is doing. We're the only district in the United States where in 130 schools, we take art of thinking 3 times a week, 90 minutes each time, 3rd grade through 10th grade. That is not STAR tested.
What is art of thinking?
Art of thinking is information literacy, problem solving, and critical thinking. Okay. A very purposeful, creative curriculum to get kids ready for a different world and workplace where critical thinking, information literacy, and problem solving are at a premium. So we're doing that, and that's not STAR tested. We should be doing performance arts. We don't need to be evaluated by the states to be, to do something good for kids. So performance arts in the NES New Education System schools, we call those the 130 schools, we have on top of electives, not in place of electives, we have what's called dyad, martial arts, photography, dance, piano. These are different experiences that kids get and should get to round out their education. And definitely, we at the HISD Foundation luncheon last week, we focused on performance arts because that's a big area of the district, even though everybody knows we also, at the same time, focus on instruction.
My son went to HSPVA. So
yeah, I mean,
I'm
HSPVA is a great example.
Yeah. I want to turn to the voucher system they've had in Arkansas and Florida. Are you familiar, I'm sure, with both of those?
A little bit, yes.
Have they worked? Do you think they've worked?
So, I mean, I don't know if they have worked. I don't have enough information about that. I think in the end of the day, parent choice is important. I've always thought that. Before I came to Houston, I was the CEO of a charter network, and my belief is all schools need good teachers. All schools should be effective and teach kids well, whether it's private, public, charter, traditional. all of them.
That's the criticism I've heard from teachers I've spoken to, is that a voucher-type system can take away the better students from the public schools and put them in the private schools. And so now your rankings are going to come down in those public schools.
Yeah, I don't know if there's a lot of evidence for that.
I think that's the fear. I don't know if there is evidence. I just hear that as a fear.
I suspect that you're right, that is a fear. I'm not that afraid of that. I think the best teachers, the most effective teachers, are the teachers in the public schools, and in some charter schools.
And I would agree. And you know, they don't rank private schools.
No,
we do rank public schools,
and the accountability is higher in the traditional public schools.
Sure. In fact, I mean, teachers in private schools don't necessarily have to have a teaching degree.
That's right.
So how do you, if you were a parent and you were saying, well, this public schools are A, B, I'd like to send my kid to a private school, but there's no ranking. How do you know if you're getting a better deal?
Well, there are rankings, and I think that's one of the concerns. For example, my daughter goes to an excellent school, and we love the administrators, the teachers there very much. And I see them day in, day out working with this new curriculum and really implementing the new thinking. And I think that it's unfortunate, though, but we are not ranked that great. And that's one of the issues that I think parents feel, that the way we are measuring, absolutely, we want to measure how students can read and how teachers are doing. But I think parents want to also really understand where that measurement is coming from.
That's right. I think there's other things, though. Parents also look at the safe and orderly environment, and then they look at programming. So the STAR exam, the rankings, is one metric, though, and a serious one for most parents, meaning they don't want to go to a D or F rated school.
No,
that's right.
At the same time, even if you're getting an A or B, if you don't have a safe and orderly environment, or you're not offering programming like PVSA or some of the other performance art schools that we have, or magnet schools, then that may not be something a parent wants. They want both. They want it all, and the worst we can do is say we're not going to give you a score on academics.
We're speaking with HISD Superintendent Mike Miles. We're taking your calls, too. It's 713-440-8870. Superintendent, you have been here now 2 years-ish. I'm curious, do you feel like you have gotten a handle on the place? When we first talked, when you first got here, there was a lot you had to get a hold of and figure out and let your message be heard and have time to develop it. Where do you think you are on this journey? And how much longer do you think this current establishment, I don't want to say this takeover, but what's happening there, is bound for the Houston area?
So we've spent the last 2 years really looking at our instruction, improving that, and also looking at systems. By the way, on instruction, we went from 121 D and F rated campuses to 41 in the first year.
Nice.
On the other end, we went from 93 A and B rated campuses to 170. So
I guess you would see that as successful.
I think that's a bona fide success.
Yeah.
I mean, most recently, the NAEP, the Nation's Report Card, we're one of the few districts in the country that proficiency-wise went up in all 4 of the exams. 4th grade math, 4th grade reading, 8th grade math, 8th grade reading. Anyway, but there's so many other systems and processes in a big district, one with 25,000 employees, and we've had to fix a lot of those things. And of course, change is hard, totally understandable. We had to change, break a lot of the status quo, not just instructionally, but systemically, and that's been a challenge. And so you asked, do we have a handle on it? Yeah, I believe that we've got a long way to go. That's number one. But number two, we're making really good progress. We know where the pitfalls are and where the challenges are, and now it's a matter of continuing to improve and move that flywheel.
So then, what are the things that keep you up at night? What are the ones that are bothering you now?
It's always, can we move fast enough to get our kids who are behind ready for world and workplace? We have a lot of kids who are behind, and that can't be changed overnight. And the world is not slowing down for us, right? I mean, the world and workplace is changing every day, especially with AI in our future. So we're trying to upgrade our high skills, high wage, high demand jobs, for example, and that's going to take a little bit of time. So what keeps me up is I got a generation of kids in school now. Mm-hmm. I cannot wait. We cannot wait, because every year that passes, many kids aren't going to get what they need.
You know, Superintendent Miles, Ernie mentioned that you will, in June, it'll be 2 years. And one of the big issues or concerns, obviously the Board of Managers meetings get very heated, and a lot of parents and community members alike have felt that there's been a lack of empathy. Do you feel like now that we're coming into that 2 year, how have you been able to bridge that gap and reach across to those parents and community members that have felt that perhaps things were not necessarily handled immediately the right way?
Yeah, I think, over time, it's already gotten better, meaning people are getting used to some of the changes. Where our message is getting out, the narrative is changing. Still, there's a lot still to do, and there are some things that we're doing that people are not going to be happy with, and I'm not sure that will ever change, because we've got a lot still to do. And so I think it's already moving, and I think the sentiment is changing. So I feel good about that. But part of that comes from just continually getting out there. Look, I'm on your show today.
Yeah, thank you for being here.
And I think that's one little piece that helps. Whether people agree or not, I think they can see that, hopefully I'm not a crazy person.
No,
it's like,
no. The proof is in the pudding.
And at the core, once people hear the message enough, they understand. You may not agree with all the things we're doing, but all of it is tied to what's good for our kids.
Well, I hope when some of these bills have either passed or failed, you will come back and tell us where you stand on them.
Sure.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm happy to do that.
That'd be great.
It's a pretty heavy legislative session. So
we have 2 hours every day.
Right.
Every day.
I have one last quick question. So, Superintendent, I saw recently that there's a group of 4th graders that are getting behind styrofoam trays, and they're taking change in their own hands. Have you heard about that?
Yes.
Have you talked to them?
So a group from River Oaks, I was there for their International Day, and they had lots of booths and tables, and they were groups of kids were talking about different countries, and one group was talking about styrofoam and trying to end polystyrene trays. Mm-hmm. And so I was impressed with them, and they asked if I wanted more information. They'd give it to me. So I said, sure, let's set up a meeting. And they came a week ago to the central office, Hattie Mae. They did a presentation. These are 3 girls, 4th graders, so articulate, so smart, from River Oaks Elementary School. Very articulate. I was very impressed. And they made a pitch to us to get rid of these styrofoam trays for lunch.
Right.
And they had their data. It was just like a cabinet meeting where they presented their proposal, had their data, had to back it up with data. And so as a result of that, we are going to do a pilot at River Oaks and Hoggs Middle School, and we will use bamboo trays. They're slightly more expensive, but you have to get a supply chain, and you have to worry about big orders and things like that. So we'll start with the pilot, and then we'll see.
Are we at
can
paper
expand
straws yet?
We are
actually.
We're starting to do that
and
this
paper
year.
Cups, no plastic cups. See?
So we're and this is the next evolution, right? But I was persuaded by evidence and facts.
Excellent.
By
our
the secret to your
HISD
heart.
students.
Not those cute 4th graders.
No,
Right.
no, absolutely not. Superintendent Mike Miles, thank you so much for joining Frank, Ernie, and myself today on Hello Houston.
Thanks.
Come
thanks
back
for having
soon.
me.
Come back
Thank
soon.
I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Coming up on Hello Houston, we'll talk about the special election, and is there really a Cruz Curse? We'll talk about that next and take your calls at 713-440-8870.
This week in This American Life, a well-respected surgeon, 96 years old, has a secret that he wants the world to know. And so before he dies, he leaves a voicemail.
I have some information perhaps you might like to hear. Hanging up now. Bye.
People tossing words out into the world carelessly, and they ignite and burn for years this week.
This American Life. You can hear it Wednesday night at 9 o'clock.
Support comes from the Shepherd School of Music Opera Department, presenting John Corigliano's The Ghosts of Versailles at Brockman Hall for Opera, Friday, April 11th and Sunday, April 13th. Tickets at music.rice.edu. Houston Public Media presents The Moth Story Slam, tonight at Lambert Hall. Doors open at 7 p.m. The theme of the night is Bloom, Stories About Growth. Tickets at houstonpublicmedia.org/The Moth. Support comes from Houston Grand Opera, presenting Missy Mazzoli's contemporary opera Breaking the Waves, making its Houston debut at the Wortham Center from April 19th through May 4th. Tickets are available at hgo.org. Support comes from Signify Business Cash by Wells Fargo. With this business credit card, cardholders can earn rewards on business purchases with no caps or categories to track. Learn more at wellsfargo.com/signify. Terms apply.
Houston Public Media exists for those in our community in Southeast Texas. We appreciate our visionary supporters for enabling us to be the essential source for independent journalism and programs that inform, inspire, and engage all Houstonians. Jenny and Mike Conway, Judith and Mark Cook, Carolyn and Platt Davis, Janice and George Fleming, Amanda and Morris Gelb, Maria and Rex Gray, and Cynthia Holliday. Thank you.
And now back to Hello Houston. Call now, 713-440-8870, or email us at talk@hellohouston.org to get your comment in on today's topics. Here's Ernie Manous, Celeste Diaz-Sherman, and Frank Billingsley.
Hello, Houston.
Hello, we are back with you. Hey, Celeste.
Hi.
Hey, that was a really, I thought, interesting conversation with Mike Miles. I had never met him. You'd met him before,
Yes,
Ernie.
yes. We've done interviews before.
I thought he was straightforward and forthright, and he promised to come back. So
yes.
And when he does come back, remember, our lines are always open for your calls. We had one that came in during that we took, but we've always got it open for you, 713-440-8870, and you can call and be part of the conversation, as you can be with all of the things we talk about on the show. Today, right before we sat down with the superintendent, we were talking a little bit about our headlines, and one we had just started talking about was the 18th Congressional District special election to fill the seat vacated by the passing of U.S. Representative Sylvester Turner. Well, our governor has said that we can do it now on November 4th. Seems like
That's
a
phony
bit
baloney,
of a wait.
isn't it?
And he did say that the reason why was that, I'm trying to find the exact thing, the quote, that so it would give Harris County sufficient time to prepare for such an important election. We also heard from Harris County that they were ready and prepared for a special election. Yeah. We're curious what you think about this. Give us a call. Are you happy with Abbott's action, or is it too little too late? Call us, 713-440-8870.
What do you think, Celeste?
I mean, are we surprised? I mean, I don't necessarily find this shocking.
What part surprised you? That it's been put off so long?
That it's been put off for so long.
Yeah, I feel bad for the folks that chair, that seat represents, to go that long with no representation.
Downtown Houston,
yeah.
And then communities that are generally off to the east side there.
That's right. That's right. And we want to remind everybody, later on this week, we will have Harris County Christian Menifee attorney will be joining Frank, Ernie, and myself, as well as Amanda Edwards. Both are running for that seat, the District 18th seat. To fill
I'd be interested to see how they feel about it. I think the initial reaction I've seen from people is taxation without representation. Yeah. So we're sitting there for the next 6 months with no one. And I assume that even if you're elected in November, it's going to be January before you're actually sworn in, perhaps. I don't know.
I think in a special election, they
is it instant?
Right in.
Is it pretty soon?
I think I'm speaking. If Brandon Rottinghaus may be joining us later on, we'll ask him.
I would love to hear
that.
I love to hear what Brandon has to say.
It is interesting that it didn't happen in May. Now, when the similar situation happened with Sheila Jackson Lee, Ali, it was about 4 months before, and it was in July that she passed, and so they held the special election during Election Day in November.
That sort of made
her daughter
sense.
then. Right. This seems an awful long, since there is a May election coming up, that they could have put it on the ballot.
Right.
It seems. There may be reasons we're not aware of, but even Harris County election officials are implying, no, they could have had it together in then. So, interesting story. We're curious what you think. 713-440-8870. And I'm sure our two guests later in the week each have very strong opinions on this. And we'll hear from them.
Wow. Okay. So I've been saddled with this next one. Texas.
I wouldn't call it saddled.
I don't know. It's kind of funny. But Texas Senator Ted Cruz made a bet. Thanks, Senator, on behalf of the Houston Cougars on Monday, right before they reached the third national title game in the program's history. On X, Cruz wrote, "Hey, Senator Rick Scott, care to do a wager on tonight's game? If Florida wins, I'll offer up Texas barbecue, Shiner Bock beer, and Bluebell ice cream for you and your staff, plus the loser wears the winner's jersey." So, as we know, he lost the bet. There you go. So kind of a heartbreaker. But now people are saying this is another example of the Cruz curse, where the senator's presence has caused bad luck for the teams he is rooting for. I'm not sure that's fair, but the Cougars did hold a 10-point lead during the second half, with no mention online that Cruz was in the building. And then sometime after 9 o'clock, the Houston Chronicle posted that he was indeed in the building. And after that post, we lost. So, coincidence, or is the supernatural really at work here?
Do you think there is a Cruz curse? Give us a call at
we'd love to hear it.
713-440-8870. I do not believe in any supernatural stuff, but I believe in this.
Well, you know, a lot of sports fans and athletes are very superstitious.
Yeah.
And there are, a lot of athletes and sports fans have very
you gotta
specific
wear your jersey.
rituals,
You gotta,
certain socks, and you can't wear white socks. You have to wear, and so, I think that there might be something to it.
Well.
I'm going to throw it out there.
Are you into that? You superstitious?
I'm a little superstitious within reason, right? Like,
I don't think those two exist in the same.
I like to have a pink pencil. When we're on Hello Houston, I like to have a pink pencil. That is my thing.
If you'd like to see what that pink pencil looks like, you could go to
YouTube.
Well, then,
Houston Public Media.
So have you ever noticed if you don't have your pink pencil, things don't work out the way you hope they would?
It's not necessarily they don't work out. I just definitely, from a mental standpoint, feel like things are going to work out. Because I have my pink pencil.
Being comfortable, I understand that. But superstition, Frank, are you superstitious?
No.
No.
Yeah. I used to be like, don't step on a crack, break your mother's back. That kind of stuff,
yeah.
So you saw me in the parking lot jumping on cracks?
Well, I was really kind of fearful of Friday the 13th. I really hated Friday the 13th. And then I did a story when I worked for KTRK years ago on a Friday the 13th and all those different superstitions that come along with that. And the more I explored it, the more walking under ladders and black cats, and they all have their basic religious, knock on wood refers to the cross.
Right.
And that's when you knock on wood. Spilling salt, if you look at Da Vinci's painting of the Last Supper, there's salt that's spilled on the table. So there's a lot of these superstitions that derive from religious thinking.
Yeah.
And so it's really not superstition. It's just the way people saw the world in their way. So I kind of don't believe in superstition.
Yeah.
We want to remind everybody you can join the conversation at 713-440-8870. We have Ruth from Rice on the line.
Ruth, what's on your mind today? Ruth, you there for us?
I am.
There you are.
Hi.
Hi, what's on your mind?
I was really disappointed that there were not any more hard questions for Mr. Miles. He's really fond of saying that test scores are great and everything's great, but we had 42% teacher turnover in the first year he was there. We've got people leaving the district at such a huge rate that it's been published in the Chronicle that they're giving bonuses to principals to try and keep people from leaving.
Mm-hmm.
Kids hate it. And most importantly, I think that people don't understand that a standardized test given one time, it's kind of like saying that we all believe that when kids at the end of the high school and they take the SAT, and they don't do as well as you want. And so you send them to a test prep class and then suddenly their score is 100 points better. Nobody believes that kid has suddenly received so much more education and is so much more ready for the world, right? Mm-hmm. Everybody knows that a test prep class makes a kid do better on a test. And unfortunately, what Mr. Miles' entire curriculum is test prep and worksheets that are often wrong. We recently have proof in text messages that administration is literally cheering when seasoned teachers resign. If you ask teachers who have been forced out, the reason they've been fired is because they refuse to do things that they know are harmful to children. We've got schools that are not having recess for any kids at all except kindergarten, which is a violation of district and state policy. Mm-hmm. We've got teachers, when they're being observed, for example, they're supposed to interrupt their classes every 4 minutes and ask them to respond in a certain way. And there's literally a timer in front of the classroom that is counting down 4 minutes. I don't know about you. I don't think that that's a way to teach kids how to have sustained reading skills. That's not a way to teach kids how to think independently. This goes all the way through high school. I don't know anyone who can do a calculus problem in 4 minutes. Teachers are getting scored down for not interrupting kids while they are in the middle of a test to ask them to turn and talk to your neighbor. I just think the lowballing questions and not asking, having someone else who's got enough information and experience to have a counter narrative, I think that was just lousy journalism, and I'm disappointed.
Ruth, I'm sorry you were disappointed. The superintendent did say he will come back and join us again. And as always, we have our phone lines open for folks to call in and express their concerns and questions. We were very light on call-ins on the show, but we did have the phone lines open. We're going to thank you right now, and we're going to chat about this. Thank you, Ruth, for calling in. So, Celeste, you have a horse in this race. You have children in the school. Your thoughts on what Ruth was just sharing with us?
I think that Ruth has a point to some degree. Right. I think that, we know Superintendent Mike Miles came in with an agenda, and he was going to do whatever it took to make that agenda happen. And unfortunately, a lot of, I think, community felt like they were left out of the strategy. And Superintendent Mike Miles' strategy is we're moving in the new direction of the NES system. If you like it, great. If you don't like it, get out of our way. Mm-hmm. And I think that it's one of those things where there is still a large group in the community that still don't believe that the takeover, as most people know it, or what the Texas Education Agency calls it, the intervention, was handled properly. I think that the proof is in the pudding. We do see that our schools are moving in a better direction. I'm going to give a little bit of my own personal take. I was the PTO president of my daughter's elementary school when she was the first year the takeover happened. Teachers were very nervous. Our school got hit hard in that first instant. But it's not just an end-all be-all. I mean, kids are resilient. People are resilient. Our school is now thriving. Our students are happy. Do they get a lot of worksheets? They do. And I've talked to Superintendent Miles about the worksheets, and there are sometimes some mistakes in there. That is right. But is it every single worksheet that comes up? No, right? I mean, it's unfortunate that they continue to push that narrative. But yeah, I mean, I think that there's a little bit of truth into what Ruth was saying, but I also think that we need to get behind this for our kids.
So the changes that you have seen in the last 2 years, you approve?
I would say that I've seen more of anything a change in Superintendent Miles and him realizing that he has to start connecting with parents, that it doesn't matter if it's working or if it's not. Perception is reality. And if people still think that he's not doing a good job, it doesn't matter if it's working. But all right. There's our music playing me off.
Hey, thank you very much. It's a very good perspective.
And
like a mom.
Not playing you off. It's telling you that we've got to go to break, but we're going to be back with more Hello Houston. Coming up, got a lot more in the show today.
That's right. You're listening to Hello Houston on News 88.7.
Stay tuned. There's more Hello Houston on the way with Ernie Manous, Celeste Diaz-Sherman, and Frank Billingsley. For the latest in local news, subscribe to the Hello Houston Daily Newsletter at HoustonPublicMedia.org. Hello Houston is a production of Houston Public Media. The opinions expressed by the guests of this program are solely their own and do not represent the views of management, staff, or underwriters of Houston Public Media. This is News 88.7.
Support for Houston Public Media comes from St. Arnold Brewing Company, a place for corporate events on tap. Meeting rooms, AV equipment, and full catering available. More at starnold.com. Did you know Houston Public Media accepts vehicle donations? If you've got a car or truck that you don't need anymore, donate it to our station. It could be worth hundreds of dollars or more in support. Go online to houstonpublicmedia.org/cars for more info.
Really nice day with a high getting up to near 75. This is your NPR station, KUHF Houston, News 88.7, a service of the University of Houston.
Of Hello Houston, so close but not quite. We'll talk about a tough night for the Houston Cougars in San Antonio. Also, it's called de-extinction, a new way to bring species that are extinct back again. We'll talk about that. I'm Ernie Manous.
And I'm Celeste Diaz-Sherman. Also this hour, comedian Ali Siddiq joins Frank, Ernie, and myself. He's a Houston native and has a new special out. We'll find out how our city has shaped his career coming up next.
I'm Frank Billingsley. We're always interested in what you have to say, too. Be a part of Hello Houston at 713-440-8870. Curious what radio looks like? You can watch us live on YouTube through a link at HoustonPublicMedia.org.
Plus, Broadway and cabaret star, former Cougar self, Sally Mays joins us.
First, the news from NPR and News 88.7.
Hello Houston is made possible in part by founding sponsors John Bradshaw and Kathy Sanders, and by gifts from listeners like you.
Live from NPR News, I'm Lakshmi Singh. The U.S. Supreme Court is clearing the path for the Trump administration to lay off more than 16,000 probationary employees, at least for now. The dismissals are part of a much bigger cost-cutting campaign that has cost the jobs of tens of thousands of people throughout the federal government. In a 7-2 decision affecting probationary workers, the court granted the government's request for a stay on a preliminary lower court injunction that blocked the firings. The stay is temporary. It is centered on the question of whether 9 nonprofits who are challenging the dismissals have standing to sue. After a 3-day nosedive, U.S. stocks are rebounding sharply on hopes the U.S. and its trading partners will put their trade war to rest. President Trump's betting his policies will give U.S. industries the upper hand. NPR's Tamara Keith reports the stakes are high.
If the dire warnings about prices rising because of tariffs become a reality that voters feel, or if the economy slows down or falls into recession, there won't be any question about whose economy this is. President Trump has made a historically dramatic economic policy move here based on a conviction that he has held since the 1980s. If he succeeds, he can claim all the credit, but if he fails, he and his party will get all of the blame.
Tamara Keith reporting. The administration's telling migrants who enter the U.S. using an online app to leave immediately. Here's NPR's Joel Rose.
The Department of Homeland Security says it sent formal termination notices to migrants who are allowed to enter the U.S. through the CBP One app, though DHS did not say how many have received those notices. More than 900,000 migrants used the app to schedule appointments at ports of entry. CBP One was a central part of the Biden administration's strategy to relieve pressure at the border by creating temporary legal pathways under an authority known as humanitarian parole. The Trump administration quickly dismantled that policy and is now urging migrants to leave immediately. It's not clear how the termination notices will affect migrants who've already applied for asylum or other protections in the U.S. Joel Rose, NPR News, Washington.
Egypt, France, and Jordan say they held a joint phone call with Trump yesterday about reinstating an Israel-Hamas ceasefire in Gaza. More from NPR's Hadil Al-Shalchi.
Egyptian officials close to talks to end the war in Gaza tell NPR that the mediators' latest proposal includes a 40 to 60-day ceasefire in exchange for a number of hostages, 7 of whom are alive. One of the released hostages would be American-Israeli Idan Alexander. It also includes the entry of humanitarian aid into Gaza, which Israel has blocked completely for more than a month. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu met with President Trump this week and said they discussed a new hostage deal. Trump has proposed moving Palestinians out of Gaza and rebuilding the territory under U.S. ownership. The leaders of Egypt, France, and Jordan rejected the displacement of Palestinians from Gaza. Hadil Al-Shalchi, NPR News, Tel Aviv.
This is NPR.
Live from News 88.7 in Houston, I'm Matt Thomas. The Fort Bend Democratic Party has called for County Judge K.P. George's resignation. This amid him being due at a county commissioner's court meeting today. News 88.7's Natalie Weber is covering that meeting and will have the latest for us this afternoon here on News 88.7. George, who's a Democrat, was arrested on money laundering charges last week. Party Chair Fred Taylor.
We are going to be the party of integrity and transparency as long as I am the Fort Bend County Democratic Party chairman.
George is also accused of faking racist attacks against his campaign on social media. He's facing a misdemeanor charge for those allegations. Governor Greg Abbott is drawing criticism for waiting until November to call a special election to fill Congressman Sylvester Turner's seat in Congress. Turner died last month, and Abbott missed an earlier deadline to call that election. News 88.7's Matt Harrod has that story for us.
In a statement, Harris County Attorney Christian Menefee blasted Abbott, saying that it is, quote, unconscionable to leave nearly 800,000 people in the district without representation in Congress for most of the year. County Commissioner Rodney Ellis said that calling the election for November 4th came, quote, too late. Some Democrats have accused the governor of pushing the election to the end of the year to protect the Republicans' slim majority in Congress. Hakeem Jeffries is the Democratic leader in the House. He said that House Democrats are actively looking at ways to compel Governor Abbott to hold the election earlier, an option Abbott opted against. I'm Matt Harrod, News 88.7.
The weather for today and this week, there's really not going to be a whole lot to complain about. Sunny with a high near 75 this afternoon, and then clear tonight with a low of about 55 degrees. Very little wind, sunny and a high near 80 for tomorrow, and then sunshine 85 as we get into the latter part of the week. I'm Matt Thomas, News 88.7.
Support for NPR comes from NPR stations. Other contributors include Dana-Farber Cancer Institute, whose scientists worked to lay the foundation for CDK4/6 inhibitors, which are increasing the survival rate for many advanced breast cancers. danafarber.org/everywhere.
Live from the University of Houston, it's Hello Houston, an open forum on today's biggest stories affecting Houston and beyond. Call now, 713-440-8870, or let us know your thoughts on today's topics by emailing us at talk@hellohouston.org. Now here's your hosts for Hello Houston, Ernie Manous, Celestia Sherman, and Frank Billingsley.
And hello there, Houston.
Hello, Houston.
Good.
Hello, Celeste.
You know, I
Were you
never
about
know
to
what
say
say
good
I was
morning?
going to say good morning. It's 12:07. So, I mean, is it like hello noon?
It's afternoon. Afternoon, Houston. Afternoon. You know what? If you want to see the expression on our face when Celeste says things like that, you can easily do it by going to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/Houston Public Media. And we're here doing our show on camera.
Yeah.
I don't know if I want everybody always seeing the expression on my face because
I mean, well, there was
pretty
big
expressive.
Big dilemma here this morning because Celeste thought her lipstick was too dark, but we've gotten that straightened out, so
Yes.
everything is moving forward.
She was sort of made up for evening, not morning.
Right, but
yes.
it's still daytime, and the weather outside is lovely.
You know, you couldn't ask for better April weather. This is what April is all about in Houston. We need some rain. We're not going to see that, it doesn't look like. Maybe not this weekend, but the next is at least showing up a little bit. And if you really look at the extended forecast, it would rain the Friday and maybe Saturday before Easter, but not on Easter.
Okay, as long as it doesn't rain on
But
Easter.
that's the one thing really to watch, I think, is to see how that works out. But the week ahead, we warm up into the 80s by Thursday, maybe 80 tomorrow. But the lows are still going to be on the low side. So
I put my mom to bed last night.
Okay.
And I'm thinking to myself, when I go to my room, it's kind of chilly in here. I don't have her electric blanket on the bed. I put her in thermally pajamas, a little warmer, flannel. That's the word I wanted, flannel pajamas. But she only had one quilt on. So then I worried all night she was going to be too cold. She was fine this morning. No problem. Don't worry. Don't call me in.
I'm not worried.
But Do I have to worry night times? Is Mom going to be cold? There's our new way of doing weather here. Is Mom going to be cold?
Yes,
Do I send my kid with a jacket?
I think so. I think we still have overnight lows down into the 50s overnight tonight. So, yeah, it's a little chilly.
All right. Maybe another blanket on the
I'll take all of this weather for
Anyway,
long.
coming up this hour on the show, we have Broadway and cabaret star Sally Mays with us, and comedian Ali Siddiq will be here. But first, it's the topics of the day. Celeste, I can't even imagine what our first topic could be.
Well, it's been a tough day today for our Cougs. The Houston Cougars lost to the Florida Gators last night in the NCAA Men's Basketball Championship game. After trailing for nearly the entire game, the Gators outscored Houston 65-63 for the win. Yeah, it's just a bummer. But we are so very proud of our Cougs, and the fans at the Avenida Center watch party last night were coping with the loss.
I'm proud of the team for everything that they've done. I'm proud of Coach Sampson.
This is still an honor to play, and I'm so proud of our team.
Win or lose, man, I always want to be a proud Cougar no matter what.
I think that's what's going to hurt the most is they've worked so hard outside of what they're required to do just to make it this far, and to come up short by 2 points is really sad.
It was a tough loss, but it was a great seasons for the Cougs. Go Cougs.
Go Cougs.
That's right.
My question last night while watching is, why do we do this? Why do we watch this? I was such a nervous wreck all night, and I'm not even a sports person.
Ernie likes a Broadway show where we know the ending.
Or a Broadway show I've never seen before, where I don't know. But I'm not so worried. I for somebody who wasn't that invested, yes, Cougs, the Cougars were here, UH, I'm all in. But I was shocked how nervous I was for them, and how my temperature was rising, my heartbut was going. I'm
right,
like,
and when they're way ahead, you're like, oh, I can relax a little bit, and then you start going, oh. Like I think I sent y'all a message.
Yeah.
I said, if we're not careful, we're going to be duked here. And we were flat duked, that's for sure.
Last night, Ernie, Frank, and our chat was going crazy because we were just like, what is happening? Yes.
Well, we had to talk about it today. We're like, what are we going to be talking about? We're going to be talking about a victory, or we're going to.
Celeste helped me understand. It's like when a country I really like has a song that performs really well at Eurovision, but some other country has another song, and it's just a little better when the jury vote comes up. Now I understand.
You get it. Just we do Ernie math, and it equates always to Eurovision.
All roads lead to Eurovision.
Eurovision, or how my mom's doing.
That's right.
Gonna
The
be
Ernie math, and we have Frankonomics.
Well, we're curious what you think of what went on with our great Cougars last night. Share your feelings, reactions, thoughts, and well wishes for the team as they make their way home. 713-440-8870. In slightly more serious news, Fort Bend Democratic Party has called for County Judge K.P. George's resignation. George, a Democrat, was arrested on money laundering charges last week. This is party chair Fred Taylor.
We are going to be the party of integrity and transparency as long as I am the Fort Bend County Democratic Party chairman.
George is also accused of faking racist attacks against his campaign on social media. He's facing a misdemeanor charge for those allegations. Well, you know what? They're allegations.
Yes.
And we are innocent until proven guilty. But boy, there's a lot of smoke where this fire seems to be burning. What do you think of KP George? Should he resign or stay and fight? 713-440-8870. What do you think?
Well, I think he should resign. I think that I do. And I think that you can still, be innocent, but there needs to be a level of integrity of saying, you know what, right now there's so much around what's happening in my life that perhaps what's the best integrity for the county is
right. Once the ideals, the image, the appearance is such, can you properly govern? And you have to wonder what has been. But in today's politics, there are so many attacks on so many politicians on either side of the aisle that stories spread and things happen. And until you know all the facts, we shouldn't be making judgments. But
it's innocent until proven guilty.
Right.
And, these are all charges he's facing. None of them have gone to trial. Some of them may be dropped. Some of them may be reworked entirely. Until it really comes to a head, I think you should just let it be.
And it reminds me of, as we look at these very public names and these leaders that are having these moments, it makes me think about, Pete Hegseth, who sent that text. And I think there were a lot of people saying, should he resign? Asking those same questions about, you make a huge mistake. And, well, KP George isn't a mistake. I mean, potentially could be.
If he broke the law, he broke the law.
He broke the law. But should we be holding people to that level of accountability?
I think in elected office I think just in the jobs we do, we're held to a certain level in being just and fair when we do questioning, when we talk to people.
I mean, we heard Ruth call us and say bad journalism.
Right. And our job.
She did say that.
Yeah. But I
Thanks,
think
Ruth.
our job is to, not only is our job though to, and I'm going off on a soapbox here. So if you want to stand with me, stand with me.
Take it away, Ernie.
Here I go. It's called active listening. And we have a responsibility to bring people forward on this program. This is what I believe, and share with you, our listeners or viewers, how they feel, what they think, what they believe in. Part of the job, though, doesn't end there. It's your part in listening to it, hearing the questions we ask, and looking at how they answer them. We had someone on a couple days ago where Frank asked a question, they answered. Frank re-asked the question slightly different, and they answered again. Neither times did they answer the question being asked.
No, right.
Is it Frank's job to say, wait a minute, you're not answering this question, or is it our job to pose the questions and let you, the audience, hear it, and then evaluate, wow, that person didn't answer. Frank tried twice and they didn't answer. What does that tell me? And that's, I think, part of the job here. Now, don't think we're going to ignore these things. We do bring it up and talk about it. But I'm curious what you think about active listening. How much in a talk show, how much in a conversation is it on the listener to also be involved just by the active listening and thinking about what they're hearing? Give us a call, 713-440-8870.
Yeah, I don't believe in badgering a guest.
Right.
Or a caller. I mean, I don't want to badger anybody. But, some questions I have and pose them, and we see where we get the answer.
And I am a firm believer that there's a difference between badgering a guest and also just holding people accountable, and that we can be still very respectful and ask a very direct question.
Right.
Fair.
All right. Now, one I'm really interested in, this is Frank's story, and you got the good one this time. You were complaining last time.
I'm really interested. Well, I don't think Ted Cruz is a curse for sports, okay? This is really interesting. And I'm
I have
interested
so many
in what you
comments,
think.
but I'm
All
going
right,
to refrain.
Stop it. All right, the dire wolf. I never saw a Game of Thrones. We'll say this. Ooh, that was in unison. I felt like I was in stereo. Okay, the Game of Thrones had the dire wolf, which apparently went extinct 13,000 years ago. But now it's back. It's called de-extinction. There have been 3 wolf pups. Romulus, Remus, those are the 2 boys. Khaleesi is the girl. So there's 2 boys and a girl. So I guess we're going to have more wolves. I mean, that's the way it works in our world. Dire wolves used to be used to be here, 13,000 years ago. They're 25% larger than gray wolves, which are their closest living relatives today. And I might add, all dogs come from wolves. I mean, if you trace the DNA back, every dog comes from a wolf. So they had a slightly wider head, light, thick fur, stronger jaws, and they were hyper carnivores, which means they ate at least 70% meat from mostly horses and bison. So anyway, this group has gotten the DNA from some tooth and some blood cells from living gray wolves. They've gene edited through their technology and genetically modified the wolf so that now we have these dire wolves. First of all, is this a direction we should be going with genetic engineering?
I am extremely concerned about this. First of all, that we didn't give a phone number for people to call and give their point of view, 713-440-8870. I am really bothered by this because there is a reason that species go extinct. And if it's a case of, deforestation or something like that, and we as man-made have ended up
killed
doing
them all,
so,
for instance.
That's a different situation.
Right.
This was thousands and thousands of years ago. There was a reason these animals no longer were right for this environment.
Like the woolly mammoth, right?
Well, they want to bring them back, too.
I know.
And my thing is, should we be playing little gods on this planet and bringing back extinct animals? I think you upset the balance of nature. That's my argument.
And remember what happened in Jurassic Park.
You bring them back and they eat you.
Well, I mean, there is the Jurassic Park argument, but in the scientific world,
Well,
yeah,
maybe.
I'm curious what people think, though.
I would love to hear you. Yeah,
Celeste,
713-440-8870. What do you think?
There's a lot to unpack here.
Oh, there is not. You either agree with it or you don't.
I don't know. I think that, so the question that Ernie formed was, are we playing little gods here? And I think that as a Christian, I believe in science, and you can have both. And I think that we are smart and intelligent, and
my little god is a small G god.
So are we playing mad scientists?
A little bit, yeah, but that can be fun too.
Whoa. Okay. There we go. It can be fun. It can disrupt our entire ecosystem if we bring back the wrong thing, and we don't know how dire wolves are going to behave in this world. I think it's seriously a problem.
You see, we need to get a scientist on here, because the fact of the matter is, and I was not good in science or chemistry, I could see that, Ernie. I bet you were a good student. But, there's a very big difference between bringing back, like, in the lab, a huge wolf isn't going to immerse from a test tube.
These are
when they're
cute little
talking
pups.
about, like...
These are cute.
They're going to grow up. And as Frank pointed out, they didn't bring back 3 boys or 3 girls. They brought... 2 boys and 1 girl.
At separate times. The 2 boys, I think, are twins.
But the chances are that they could have more of these. And what are you
I think they will have more. I think the plan is to have more.
I'm a big fan of Planet of the Apes movies.
Oh, Lord.
And you see how those turned out. So I'm just saying.
Oh, gosh. I think, on a very serious note.
I'm being serious.
Things are Planet of the Apes.
Well, I mean, it is a lesson there that we shouldn't be altering things as they are in nature. And if something went extinct, not, as I said, man's reason, but thousands and thousands of years ago, probably a good reason for that.
Maybe.
Okay, so
what if we bring back genetically modified human beings?
You're scared of genetically modified animals that are being produced. What about artificial intelligence? What about robots that they're creating? Talk to me about the difference of that. I would be more afraid of a robot, I don't know.
Like an Uber that arrives with no driver?
Right.
There was a commercial on. I think I've talked about this before, where it's that that driverless car that picks up the guy and's driving him, and he thinks he's going home, and all of a sudden it's like, no, we're taking you somewhere else, and it's really to a surprise party. But the guy in the car has no control over where he's being taken. Yeah. I think that's a horrifying commercial. I don't know why everyone thinks, oh, that's cute. They took him to a surprise party. The future.
Well, I want to know, I need to do more research. I want to know really, why are they genetically modifying wolves?
The genetic modification is the fact they are bringing them back. They are bringing them back as they were, as I understand it.
Pretty much.
They're not crossbreeding
them
with
they're
the
not exactly
modern dog.
as they were, but I think they've got enough of the genetic material that they're close enough.
This is not Science Friday, but we should have this conversation on Science Friday, is what I think.
We have Science Friday?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
nice.
right.
Okay.
All right. We are going to take a break. And when we come back, we have got so much more for you. We've got some great guests coming up. Sally Mays is coming in, Broadway and cabaret star. Very excited. She's here at U of H to give back.
By the way, it's National Zoo Lovers Day, in case you want to go look at wolves.
Okay, also, Ali Siddiq will be here with us. But right now, we're going to take a break. Give us a call with your thoughts, 713-440-8870. This is Hello Houston on News 88.7.
I'm Jeremy Hobson. Next time on The Middle, we're approaching the first 100 days of Trump's presidency, and so much has happened.
The president is now considering a plan to eliminate the Department of Education.
The U.S. will take over the Gaza Strip. We need Greenland. I think I'm not allowed to run again. I'm not sure. Am I allowed to run again?
So how are you feeling about the first 100 days? We're taking your calls next time on The Middle.
You can hear it Thursday night at 8 p.m.
Support comes from Gen Pro, a Houston-based home generator service providing power to homes during unexpected outages, helping with connectivity and productivity. More information is available at genpro.com. Houston Public Media presents the Moth Story Slam tonight at Lambert Hall. Doors open at 7 p.m. The theme of the night is Bloom, stories about growth. Tickets at houstonpublicmedia.org/themoth.
Support for Houston Public Media comes from UNT, offering an online MBA with specializations in organizational behavior, HR management, and more. Classes start every 8 weeks. Details at online.unt.edu/MBA.
Support comes from Houston Chamber Choir, presenting Gather Round, the final concert of founder and artistic director Robert Simpson's 30-year tenure. Saturday, May 31st at St. Luke's Methodist Church. Tickets at HoustonChamberChoir.org/radio. Support comes from Children's Museum of Houston, presenting Faithful Friends, an exhibit exploring understanding and friendship, where kids discover that while faiths and beliefs may differ, kindness and friendship are universal. More at cmhouston.org. Support comes from Downtown Houston Plus, with new businesses like Tenfold Coffee Company, Meow Wolf, Barbacana, Punchline Comedy Club, and Bubble Boba. Details at downtownhouston.org.
And now back to Hello Houston. Call 713-440-8870 or email us at talk@hellohouston.org to get your comment in on today's topics. Now back to Ernie Manous, Celeste Diaz-Sherman, and Frank Billingsley.
Welcome back. Hello, Houston. Hello, Ernie, Celeste.
Hello
Hi, Frank.
there.
I'm
over here
Billingsley.
petting my dire wolf in the corner.
If you get one, let us know.
Oh,
would
I'm
you?
not.
All right. We've been talking about a lot today. A special election for Texas 18th Congressional District, previously held by Sylvester Turner. That's been called for November 4th, which is nearly 8 months after Turner's passing. It could be called for May, but it is not. The proclamation was issued by Texas Governor Greg Abbott on Monday. He's been criticized by Houston area Democrats for not putting the election on the May 3rd ballot. Sounds to me like a little phony baloney going on, but Brandon Rottinghaus can put this all in perspective for us. He is a political science professor here at the University of Houston and co-host of Houston Public Media's Party Politics. Hello, Brandon. What's going on here?
Hey, Frank, how are you?
Good. I'm so glad you're
Really
on
good
with us
question.
today. Put some of this in perspective for us. Why is it taking so long for the governor to call for a special election, and why is he waiting until November?
It's a great question. It depends a bit on who you ask. If you ask the Democrats, they're saying that the governor is delaying so that they can have a little bit of a cushion in D.C. without that extra, what is very likely to be Democratic vote. If you ask the governor, he's going to say that he did it because he wasn't sure a snap election was going to be able to be accomplished by the infrastructure and administration of Harris County's voting. That's something that obviously has been much in the news and contentious because Harris County has run pretty good elections the last couple cycles, but there have been hiccups, and sometimes those hiccups get magnified and used politically against the local administrators.
Yeah, but Brandon, that's 3 months they had to pull off the May election. Sounds like enough time.
It probably is, and obviously Tanisha Hedgepeth made it very clear that they were ready and able to handle this election. It's an unusual kind of request, but look, it's a smaller election. You're not going to have that many voters. They don't have to have countywide precincts that are in place. So this would have been something they could have handled. So I think that obviously politics plays into all of this. Exactly what the truth is somewhere in the middle of all this. But for sure, it's the case that locally, at least, the Harris County administrators could definitely have been able to accommodate.
Well, there's nothing anybody can do about it. I mean, the governor has
Right.
spoken on this, and it's his prerogative, correct? I mean, there
Great
you go.
question. Yeah, no, you make a good point, Frank. And actually, I would have loved to have seen litigation on this because states across the nation have different parameters and different rules about when a governor can call a particular election like this. So having some kind of a standard for what constitutes too long would have been really nice to know.
You know, thinking back on situations similar to this in the past, my recollections were, don't governors appoint someone to sit in the seat until an election is held?
They do that for the U.S. Senate, but not for House seats, which just complicates the kind of federal system that we live in and the bicameral system that we live in. So, all these little quirks definitely create this kind of confusion. And to be honest, this is going to definitely trickle down to voters. Whenever you have an off-cycle election, it's going to create this kind of confusion among voters who don't know exactly what they're voting for. And remember, this is not an election to be a permanent seat filler in this role. This is an election to fill the seat until the next election, when that person is then elected.
And that'll be a year from November, correct?
Correct.
And so Ernie and I were talking about this earlier. Once this person is elected in November, I guess November 4th, will they be sworn in to the House on November 5th, or do they have to wait?
They'll probably have to wait. Just logistically, they'll go to D.C. and they'll have one of the leadership there.
But they don't wait till like mid-January, right?
No, they should do it pretty soon. Yeah, and they'll get their binder full of information about what's happening in D.C., where their office is. They'll get
the welcome umbrella, all of that.
Employee orientation day.
Oh, that's the worst. But yes, they'll definitely have to go through that.
So until all of this happens, what's happening with the folks in the 18th Congressional District? Do they have a voice?
No.
They have a modest voice. The obvious sort of pathways where that happens is that they can communicate with the district office staff or with the D.C. office staff. If there's some kind of a problem they have with a federal grant or with an agency, say Social Security or Medicaid, then they can communicate those concerns to.
Okay, but they don't have a voting. They don't have a voting voice.
Very true, and that's exactly right. And this is a war at a time in which the representation is so critical, since so many things are happening in D.C. at this moment.
What quickly, and I don't know if you know this off the top of your head, but I bet you do. What's the count now? Democrats, Republicans, and Independents in the House of Representatives.
Yeah, so the last week's special elections kept the count basically as it was. So really, they're at pretty full capacity. Democrats are also missing a seat in Florida from Arizona, from a member who passed away there. So their numbers aren't as complete as they could be. But after that special election, then after November, we'll basically have a kind of stable continuity where we're likely to hold until the midterms, where nobody's going to be going to go for that jump ball.
Well, we thank you, Brandon, for always walking us through what seems becoming more and more complicated world of politics. And you thought it was complicated when you first got into all of this, didn't you?
It always seems complicated, but happy to help.
Thank you. Brandon Rottinghaus is a political science professor at UH and co-host of Houston Public Media's Party Politics. Brandon, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks, Ernie. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. As we continue to celebrate all things University of Houston, our next guest, born in Livingston, Texas, went to UH and then went on to a storied career in music and theater, from cabarets to the Great White Way. Sally Mays has been bringing joy and entertainment to audiences far and wide, even received a Drama Desk and Tony Award nomination for her performance in She Loves Me. Currently back in Houston, here at the University of Houston, joining us right now, the one, the only, Sally Mays. Hello there, Sally.
Hello, Sally. How are you?
How you guys doing?
I want to read this one quote about you before we go any further, and it was said of you. There is hardly a cabaret performer in New York who couldn't learn something from Sally Mays. Nice,
wow, nice.
Well, that's the perfect setup for this. You're so smart.
Oh, I tried to be. So, Sally, what brings you to Houston?
Well, I came down here a few years ago with Billy Stritch and Sharon Montgomery, and we did a reunion of Montgomery, Mays, and Stritch. That was our group here in Texas for years. And we were doing it for the Cecil Pickett Foundation because he has a scholarship fund. So we came and we sold out the theater.
I need you to get a little closer to your mic. There you go.
It was awesome. And I looked around and I saw a lack. And then Brett Cullen and I brought my play with music that I've been working on called Contradiction of the Southern Soul down here, and they let us workshop it at the Jose Quintero Theater. And I'm looking around, and I did a master class, a musical theater master class, and nobody knew how to sing. And nobody knew.
You picked the right crowd.
And I was like, okay. So we started talking about it and just kind of spitballing, and I finally went to the dean, who has been the most supportive dean ever. He's wonderful, Andrew Davis. I hope you're listening. And I said, why don't you bring me in like as an artist in residence, like for a month each semester, and let me teach kids how to do this. And it's not acting class. It's telling a story through song is what it is.
Before we go on with that, when you say they didn't know how to sing, you're not just talking about hitting the notes. You're talking about delivery of the material in a way that connects with an audience.
I'm
right?
talking about both because
okay.
because some of them didn't have any sense of pitch or any of that kind of stuff, but also they didn't understand any of those things either. And so I just thought that it was something that was missing, and I wanted musical theater to be brought back. Because when I went to school here, we did musicals. We did 2 musicals a year, and I don't think I would have stayed if they hadn't. And so, it was wonderful, and the music department and the theater department worked together, and it was just this wonderful, beautiful thing. And so we just wanted to bring that back, and since we've been doing this, they're having a musical every year. And She Loves Me, which was my musical off Broadway, on Broadway, is now being performed in the music school. And so they're going to open this weekend.
Since you bring up that show, I'm curious, when you see a production of She Loves Me, what goes through your head? Are you thinking, I did that differently, I would have done it, oh, that's an interesting take? What happens when you see something you're so connected with?
I am such a geek. I love shows. I love to watch shows. And I'm such a good audience member. But what I have noticed in the last 10 years or so is that every time I see anything, and maybe it's because I'm doing some teaching now, but I'm always looking to see where the holes are and what can be fixed. Mm-hmm. And so it's hard for me to watch stuff now. But I'm going to go to this. I've got one of my students is playing the lead in it, and I'm very attached emotionally. One of my former students is playing my role, and so wow. I'm very excited about seeing it, and it's probably going to be emotional. I went to the revival that they did in New York a few years ago, and we all just sat there and cried, So, and it was in a very sweet way, Yeah. So I feel incredible gratitude towards the life I've been able to build, and so I try to give back whenever I can, and this is my way of giving back. They treat me great, and I come back down here and work with them, and this is the 4th year, and our guest artists this year, we've had me the first year, and then Faith Prince, and then Jason Robert Brown, and now this year it's Amanda McBroom, who is a very prolific songwriter. And
you might have heard of a song she wrote called "The Rose."
That little ditty.
I've heard of that. Yeah. So, do you when you're down here, what's your schedule? Are you living in New York?
We have a home above New York in Westchester County.
Oh, even better.
I'm old now, so I get to have a house.
I'm with you.
Instead of a closet.
And Medicare instead of SAG-AFTRA.
That's right.
I'm with you on that too. All right, so you're there how long, and you're in Houston how long?
Well, I come for like a month. Well, this time it's 5 weeks because I had concerts at the Hobby Center last.
Right, you were in the Foundation Club, as they call it, live
it was
at the Foundation
awesome.
Club, which is a great new thing we're doing here in Houston, over at the Hobby Center in the Foundation Club, the room upstairs, which has had a weird history of what do we do with this room. They've turned it into a lovely cabaret,
and I think they're going to renovate it too. I think they're going to make it even lovelier.
It's right by the bar.
Great.
It's well, they need that. Yeah. I think they need blackout drapes because my show started at 7 and the sun is coming in through the window. So, and it was like I don't feel like a cabaret.
But the lovely vista out those windows made you feel like you're in New York.
Yes, and they could not have been any more wonderful to me and just pampered and petted and spoiled me. And I think I knew on Saturday night it was packed, and I think I knew somebody at every single table. It was so weird,
That's fun.
Because you never know if people remember or want to come see and stuff. And so it was really nice.
Before we run out of time, quickly, a little bit about the art of cabaret today. And I see a lot of Broadway performers, when they're not in a show and have made a name on Broadway, they'll make a cabaret act and be out there. But there really is a whole subculture that is cabaret.
Yes. And when it's done right and when it's done well, it is an art form.
Yeah, it can be magical.
It can be magical because, and the thing that I've always liked about it, I've always said, this has been my soapbox, I've always said, if you can stand up on a stage and be yourself, you can stand up on a stage and be anybody. Because it's amazing how hard it is for people to do who've never done it before. They're just terrified to just stand up there and be. And I've been standing up there and being since I was about 2 years old, so I have no discomfort.
I'm with you on that.
And I think that when you do it well, it's a piece of art. And also, I love the fact that it's mine. You know, when you do a show, you serve the purview of the director and the producers and the writers. And when I do my show, I can do whatever the heck I want to.
Nice.
And I like that. So,
what's your take on Broadway these days? I know a lot of big stars like George Clooney and others have sort of taken over as far as the $3 million a week shows. Well, what's your general take on it?
I'm frustrated because, you know, I love the theater. And when I first moved to New York, I went every week to see something, every week.
And it wasn't $400 for a good seat.
No. and you have when you have a family and you stop going all the time, but when you want to go in, you still find a ticket. And, you know, there are different places where you can get them for not as expensive, but, you know, I draw the line at $900 to see Othello.
That's what a ticket is for Othello.
For Othello.
And Good Night and Good Luck is the same.
Yeah.
I also find that in this age of like everything is a screen and phones and iPads, I think that everybody's like, and with TikTok especially, okay, what's next? Swipe. So a show will open and get rave reviews, and then it will close in 3 to 6 months.
Oh, Clooney closes on June 8th.
Well, his was a limited run, but I'm talking about just shows, new shows that are brilliant and brought in, and they close because I feel like the audience that we have now is tourist driven instead of the people and theater people. And so I think that it's what's next?
Yeah.
And so they stop doing the box office. And so that's frustrating to me.
Which, Sally, I have a question. You mentioned about, you know, now you're giving back and you're teaching this new generation of students that's coming up. What are you most surprised about that new generation of actors and Broadway stars that want to learn from your experiences?
Well, I have found my students to be wonderful. I have had such a good time working with them, and I love them all. I have some people who've come back for the third year this year, and the only reason that I don't have more is because they've graduated. You know? and so it's lovely. I will say, and I kind of like drew the line. I was in a room when we were learning the cabaret arrangement that David Loud did for But the World Goes Round. So it's not from the show, but it's from that review. And so and it's wonderful, and they did it last year and the show. It was amazing. But they started like talking around the piano, and I'm standing there and I realized that not only do they not know source material, they don't know that it's from Cabaret the show, they also don't know who Liza Minnelli is. Who was a friend of mine. And I went, that's it. And so I started giving them people. And so every week I give them a person, and they have to do a book report.
I love that.
And I don't care where they were born. I don't care, you know, anything about their early life. I want to know about their show business life. And I said, I used to have to go to the library and look at the microfiche or get a book about it. You can just pick up your phone and Google, and there's going to be clips and there's going to be performances. And so I don't give them any quarter on that. I make them do it. And it has helped because I feel like they don't know whose shoulders they're standing on.
Right.
And I think you're doing yourself a disservice if you don't pay a little bit of attention to that. And so they know how I feel.
Well, so is there still that old, graduate with your theater degree and go up and just start auditioning and hope for the best? How do kids do it today if they want to be on Broadway?
I don't know.
I don't know
really
either.
Hard. I was so lucky. When I got to town, I lived on the person who put me in his cabaret, or Vrabel, lived on his couch for 6 months, and a casting director came in and saw me, and then I got an audition for Cy Coleman, and then I was in a Broadway play. Yeah. And so it was like 3 months in, I was on Broadway. So I can't really, I do know that people have to do those open calls, which are just dreadful. I see them sometimes if I'm going into a studio for something. They're around the block, and they have all their clothes changes, and they're all just like so nervous. And so I know it's hard. My nephew was up in New York for a while working on doing this, and you know, he didn't join Equity because I felt like there was no point in joining Equity because he was just going to get equity tours and go out on the road, non-equity tours and go out on the road, because there's more non-equity work right now than there is equity. So, it's harder. It's much harder than it used to be.
Well, you know, the beauty is we have you to teach the new ones, to help them learn their way through it.
I hope
You've
so.
got to come back and visit us more now that the show is up and running. And when you're here, come and visit with us.
Well, I'm going to bring Amanda McBroom,
Oh,
who
that'd be
gets into
great.
town next week. I'm going to bring her over and let her give you her views on all of this, because we used to teach together at Yale University, and we were the group that made everybody cry from love, not from sadness.
All right, we want more love. Thank you,
know.
Sally, so much
Thank
for
you.
coming, and great to see you.
Thank you so much.
Coming up next on Hello Houston, we'll be joined by comedian and Houstonian Ali Siddiq as Hello Houston continues. Stay with us.
Houston Public Media brings to you PBS World, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week on TV 8.6. Experience the personal connection behind the headlines with programming devoted to telling stories that humanize complex issues. PBS World helps us understand the movements, conflicts, and cultures that connect us all. PBS World on TV 8.6 and online at houstonpublicmedia.org.
Support for Houston Public Media comes from Baylor College of Medicine. At the heart of the Texas Medical Center, Baylor physicians and scientists continue to shape healthcare for Houston and beyond through education, research, and innovation. Support comes from Central Market with spiral sliced and in-house fire-glazed hams, cage-free eggs, scratch-baked pies and cakes, along with sparkling wines, fresh-cut flowers, and more. More at centralmarket.com.
Support comes from the In-Print Brown Reading Series, presenting two novelists, author of Intimacies, Katie Kitamura, and Karen Russell, author of Swamplandia, with their latest works, April 14th at the Alley Theater. More at inprint.org.
Support comes from Pearland, Texas, offering new construction with custom options and amenities, mature neighborhoods filled with trees, and urban living. Details at pearlandedc.com/inspiration. Pearland, inspiration lives here. Support comes from Houston Grand Opera, presenting Wagner's Tannhäuser in a production featuring tenor Russell Thomas on stage at Wortham Theater, April 25th through May 11th. Tickets are available at hgo.org. Support comes from Collaborative for Children's Collab Kid U this Saturday at Rice University. There, young children can engage in STEAM activities, explore renewable energy, robotics, and more. Tickets at collabforchildren.org.
And now back to Hello Houston. Call now, 713-440-8870, or email us at talk@hellohouston.org to get your comment in on today's topics. Here's Ernie Manous, Celeste Diaz-Sherman, and Frank Billingsley.
And we are looking toward almost the end of our show. We're getting toward the end here. We've got a really big, wonderful guest coming. But before we get to that, we're going to go to the phones. Remember, you can always join the conversations we're having right here at 713-440-8870. Over the phone, Roberto from the Museum District is with us. How are you today, Roberto?
Good morning.
Good
First
morning.
Of all, I want to tell Frank, it's great hearing your voice on radio.
Oh, thank you very much.
Having you on radio. I want to suggest that you invite HISD School Board President Rick Campo, CAMPO. He's a prominent businessman, and he's president of the HISD. And under the circumstances, I taught 24 years in HISD inner city schools. I'd like to hear his viewpoint about what he thinks HISD needs right now, because I love to call in and talk to him directly. I really admire him, but the whole situation started years ago when businessmen said, "We're hiring high school graduates who can't read, can't write, don't show up." So there's that angle that we all need to hear about and be practical with our children as to how can we prepare them for the real world. And Ernie, I have a question for you.
Sure.
I believe you know Lynn Wyatt. How is she doing? And please, next time you see her, take the opportunity to tell her, a caller, myself, Roberto, wants her to write stories about her life.
That is very funny. Roberto, I was fortunate enough to sit down and do an episode of my show, Interviews with her, where she talked about her life. And we talked quite a bit then about her telling her life story and telling her tales. So she's lived an amazing life. For folks who don't know, she's one of the most prominent socialites globally, probably, calls Houston home, philanthropist, and really a great supporter of the arts. And I will pass on your love to her, Roberto.
Thank you, Ernie.
Thank you very much.
Thanks so much for the nice words. All right, comedian Ali Siddiq is here. You've been performing for decades, just released Rugged. How are you, sir?
I'm doing well. I sounded old right then.
Oh, I know.
I've been performing for decades.
Since 1907, this man. But you did have a solo special, what, 2010?
That was I've had a couple. I've had a couple of them. I just thought about it the other day, how long it's been. It's almost 3 decades, 27 years.
Just like that.
It's like I know it because my daughter, I started a year before my daughter was born. She's 26. That's how I keep up with it. Like, as soon as she has a birthday, it's in December, and I started in December. So I'm like, yep, we are changing together.
So over those decades, they're making you feel old again. Over all those decades, how have you seen comedy change?
The many phases of comedy. So social media definitely changed comedy. Yeah. That was a hard thing for the traditional comic, that people could skip steps and go straight.
Like Matt Rife, for instance.
And, I've been knowing Matt since Matt was maybe 15, 16.
Really?
Yeah, I was actually on a tour with 3 other young comics, and it was me, and I was the elder statesman on the So I watched Matt change in a lot of ways. He's definitely gotten taller and bigger over the years, but his the crowd work thing, that was something that was really frowned upon. I remember DL was behind that 8 Ball where they like, all you do is crowd work. So then he started doing material, and then would do crowd work at the end. Now crowd work is a special now. I'm like, wow.
But it's hard to do in a theater of 3,000. It's nightclub is one thing, but
it's crowd work is probably the easiest thing to do, because you're just looking in the audience. You have 3,000 people now, to say something about.
You feed off of the crowd, right? You feel that vibe, that synergy.
And you have your collection of what to say, the jokes that work.
And my thing is more of, I'm coming with material already. I'm an old school. I'm a throwback. So I'm already coming with material. So the crowd bothers me any type of interruption. Mm-hmm. I'm like, yo, this is theater. It's like a movie with me. It's like I don't want to talk about you. I don't know that you're there until you're trying to make.
You have your script.
So I was in Fresno, and this was the craziest thing I ever even dealt with. I walked out. I said my thing, hey. And this dude hollered out, "What's up with the tuxedo?" I was like, I've never known somebody not to like a tuxedo. I dressed up for you. Was a tuxedo a bad thing?
Yeah, I could see how that would be really
You were mentioning, though, the TikTok and the skip over, and I guess where you were going to go with that is that people aren't cutting their teeth working the small, that they can jump ahead, and you don't get that foundation. Is that what you were going to?
I was there, and you'll see it when internet guys are on the shows with seasoned comics. Mm-hmm. So now a lot of them don't have the chops that you need. In comedy, I don't think you can skip the steps. And the longevity of it is not skipping the steps. No great comic has skipped this. So you got to go through the worst to understand. Like I went through every genre. I would be in rooms where they were very rowdy, then I would be in rooms where they were totally silent. And it's like I went to Austin. It's an all white audience, and they laugh at the end. Like they let you listen,
finish,
then they laugh at the end. And if you not accustomed to silence, then you think that you're doing bad. So then you start doing antics and running around. You're like, no, stay in the silence.
We want to hear the punchline, right? Like we're waiting for that punchline. But Ali, for those who aren't familiar with your story, I was reading a little bit about you, and you have an incredible story. Why don't you tell us how you got your start performing stand-up?
Actually, I started at Just Joking Comedy Cafe. I know one time a writer wrote that I started in prison. I was like, no comedy clubs in prison. No, like not one. Not that I saw.
Not that you went to.
Okay, well, wait. So
I know. I already know where that question was going. I've done 3,000 interviews. I know the lead into that, and I always correct people. Like, I know some writer wrote that, and it's like it stayed. It's like he has a signature on. I'm like, no, it didn't.
Okay, right. Well, we need to that is a major. We need to clarify that.
I've said it 1,000 times, and I'm never going to be able to clarify for some reason. And I tell you, I started in Houston on Richmond at Just Joking Comedy Cafe.
So there,
December. It was December, and I got booed. The first time I ever walked on stage, I got booed, and it wasn't because of material. It was because I was dressed wrong. It was crazy. I had on a suit. I was dressed up, but it was a college night. So it was U of H, TSU, Rice, Prairie View, and I walked out in a suit, and they just booed. All I said was, "Hey, how y'all doing?" And they started booing. Which, let me tell you the funniest story about this. And a lot of people don't know this. That night, Earthquake walked into the club as I was getting booed. Okay, so maybe a year later, he walks into this club called Semper's where I'm performing at, and I'm arguing with some dudes at the bar. Then he walks into another spot, and I'm arguing with some people. So then Def Jam, I win this Def Jam competition, and we're performing at the arena. On the show is Earthquake, D.L. Hughley, Ricky Smiley, and J. Anthony Brown. Earthquake walks in and sees me and said, "Hey, try not to get booed tonight." It's like I had a phobia of performing. Like every time he saw me, I was doing something crazy. It's like
I think we know who started the prison rumor.
Right.
Do you remember your first time on stage?
Yes, I do.
The very first. And what I think about there is the fear of doing it. Did you have that, or did you have a self-confidence that drove you through it?
I was both. I was right in the middle. I was like, I hope this works, because it was all about my at the time my wife being pregnant and how it changed from me being baby and sweetheart to very negative comments. You know, like I didn't know this happened. Like she got pregnant, and I never forget. I was in the back room and she hollered out, "Hey, bring me some water because you know I'm thirsty." How do I know that you're thirsty? I'm in a whole nother room. It's like this lady was mad at me.
Well, we won't go into it, but yes.
But everything
all your fault. All your fault.
Everything is my fault. It's like I remember she told me that I was breathing too loud. I was like, "Why don't you go watch TV in another room? You breathing too loud." I was like, "Oh, okay." But I was just the sweetest man in the world until you was pregnant. It was crazy. That was my first.
I love your bit about Mother's Day versus Father's Day.
Right?
So funny. Mother's Day, the number 2 holiday.
Number 2. Father's Day, like number 20. And it's like it's behind Arbor Day. And like I didn't even know what Arbor Day was. And my thing was, so wait a minute. I just wanted to know this. So Halloween comes before Father's, like ghosts and goblins. It was just a weird thing.
But what would you say is your style when you prepare? Do you use a lot of your own personal experience at home?
That is it.
Yeah.
I am a storyteller. And according to the LA Times, the New York Times, and Variety, I'm the greatest storyteller in comedy, no matter the era. That's what they say.
We'll take that.
And
how does your wife feel about that?
Oh wow, you went there.
I was like, yeah, because it's your personal little moments and nuances.
It's really just my life. What people know about me now is my life from 10 to 25.
Yeah.
And then I just started getting into my current life, with my 2 sons and Rugged. And now I just filmed 3 specials in Detroit. And I think that I'm doing something that most comics, and I explain to people like this a lot. Great comics will have 2 memorable specials, and those are the great ones.
Mm-hmm.
Iconic comics will have 3, and one of them you will not remember. You're like, "Oh, do you remember the one?" And Domino Effect was the first and still the only series of specials that were connected. So 1 through 4 it's my greatest work to this date because it has never been done in stand up.
Where can people see this?
Oh, YouTube. This? I'm a definitely an independent artist.
That's where I found you.
Yeah,
all over YouTube.
Where can people hear
funny.
your stand up, or do you have any shows coming up that you can tell us about?
I'm coming to the Smart Financial again for the second time New Year's Eve.
Oh wow, that's nice.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So
what do you do after the show's over?
Man, we're gonna have a band.
Yeah.
We're gonna keep people there for a little while.
Bring in the new year with your audience.
Bring in the new year, and I'm gonna have a pretty big band.
That sounds like fun.
What I'm not gonna have is Earth, Wind, and Fire. I reached out. I'm like, "Hey, how much would Earth, Wind, and Fire cost?" And they said $500,000. And I said on the phone, I said, "Well, what about wind? What if I just get wind?"
We got to end it there.
That is so good.
Ali Siddiq, thank you so much for coming. Come back again.
I would love to come
back. We're always open for you.
How much is
Ali
win?
Siddiq, so much more than a local comedian. His new special, Rugged, is available on streaming online. Ali, again, thank you for coming in.
Thank you so much.
And thank you for joining us, listening, and spending part of your day with us here on Hello Houston. We'll be back tomorrow right here on News 88.7. Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening to Hello Houston. Join us every Monday through Friday from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. to talk all things Houston. The Hello Houston production team includes Garrett Bowman, William Menjivar, Jen Altai, Todd Holslander, and Jim Kovacic. For the latest in local news, subscribe to the Hello Houston daily newsletter at HoustonPublicMedia.org. Hello Houston is a production of Houston Public Media. The opinions expressed by the guests of this program are solely their own and do not represent the views of management, staff, or underwriters of Houston Public Media. This is News 88.7.
Houston Public Media is licensed to the University of Houston System, governed by the UH Board of Regents. Information about open meetings, dates, times, and locations is online at uhsystem.edu.
I'm Tom Carter. Good morning. Gorgeous day today. Lots of sunshine. We'll get up to about 75 at 69, and this is your NPR station, KUHF Houston. News 88.7, a service of the University of Houston.
Funding for Here and Now comes from MathWorks, creator of MATLAB and Simulink software, accelerating the pace of engineering and science. Learn more at mathworks.com.
From NPR and WBUR Boston, I'm Robin Young.
And I'm Scott Tong. This is Here and Now. Coming up, an American manufacturing CEO tells us what tariffs mean for his factories in Mexico and in Asia.
We're okay on one